the 20th of March 2023, meant to be a national shutdown in South Africa, led by the economic freedom fighters. And police and the South African National Defence Force have been deployed. And we also have our reporters out across the country keeping us up to breast with the developments. We also have been giving you some analysis throughout the morning, Aubrey Matshiqi. And of course, your analysis seems to have not gone down too well in some quarters. Some people questioning some of your statements, Aubrey. The one about wasteful expenditure, for example, people asking, so what do you mean by that? What would have happened if that deployment had not been done? And also, what did you expect the president to do?
Well, Sakina, there are certain things that I think, as a response to the deep social, political, and economic crisis South Africa is going through, the president, his cabinet, the ruling party should be doing. For instance, we have a situation of a contest for power that should reside in the state, between the state and criminal syndicates. I expect that the president should provide leadership with regard to how you deal with that contest for what should be state power between the state and criminal syndicates.
Just expand on that before you go ahead, please.
Well, I can address it in the following ways. Many years ago, when I was still in government, I was asked to write speaking notes for a politician who was going to do a speech at a conference on crime. And I make a prediction. I said one of the things the politician must talk about is the possibility that if South Africa does not arrest the problem of crime, the day will come when there's dual power, the power of the state and the power of criminal syndicates. But beyond that, years after that, I make another warning. I talk about the emergence of a deep state in South Africa, where senior politicians, senior government officials, rogue elements in state intelligence structures and private intelligence structures, as well as criminal syndicates, constitute what I call a deep state. And within that deep state, these actors act in alliance in pursuit of a common economic goal. We are at a stage in South Africa where you can see elements of the deep state playing out right in front of us. We see senior politicians, senior government officials. We see rogue elements in state intelligence structures and private intelligence structures, as well as criminal syndicates working together in pursuit of a common and narrow economic goal. We see the murder of a man and his son because of his involvement in the Bosasa saga, partly because what that murder, what I think reasonably we can assume was an assassination, precisely because criminal syndicates are competing with the state for powers that should be residing in the state. In parts of the Western Cape, Sakina, the police are not allowed by criminal syndicates to operate. There are parts of the Western Cape which are no-go areas for the police because criminal syndicates lay down their law about which areas the police force can move in and which areas they cannot move in. In some cases, in parts of the Western Cape, there is tacit agreement between criminal syndicates and the police force, precisely because there is this contest between the state and criminal syndicates. And in parts of the Western Cape, that contest is being won by criminal syndicates. I expect the president to provide leadership in reconfiguring this contest to the advantage and security of the ordinary South African citizen. Now, I attend a meeting, Sakina, in which I meet a former president of the Federasyon van Afrikaanse Kultuur Organisaties. And I meet someone from Oranje. And the meeting is motivated by them saying they need to talk to moderate blacks. In those days, I was still regarded as a moderate black. And the reason they need to do so is because they say their people are arming themselves legally, are getting training illegally, and if you go to some parts of the country, on farms, there is paramilitary training taking place as part of the process that they described to me. I expect the president to provide leadership to the intelligence community and the security establishment as a whole to make sure that, first of all, that which was reported to me is investigated and is thwarted to the extent that the aim is to cause some manner of instability in the country. So that's what I expect the president to do, instead of this inordinate response to this shutdown by the EFF. Now, people talk about or suggest that I'm suggesting that the president should be in a state of slumber and do nothing. But for 9 years, the president was in a state of slumber as the deputy president of the country during what was called the 9 wasted years of the Zuma president, which effectively actually were 9 years of ANC misrule, during which, in his capacity as the deputy president of the country, the president was in a coma. Now, we're in a deep social, political, and economic crisis at the moment. Until a week ago, the president and his security establishment were in a state of slumber. So, state of slumber is their natural position when it comes to responding to the deep social, political, and economic crisis this country is facing.
Well, we're going to have to leave it there. Aubrey Matshiqi, thanks so much for being with us this morning and providing us this analysis. And of course, SABC will continue to cover this shutdown, the national shutdown, as things develop. We heard Natasha Piri talking about moving to Megawatt Park. That's another issue that will be covered here on Morning Live and, of course, on the other programs going forward. But this is goodbye to Aubrey Matshiqi, and thanks for his time this morning.